Welcome to the Gerontological Society of America's series, Connecting the Immunization and Aging Communities, supported by Pfizer. In our second session, we'll be getting to know the National Vaccine Advisory Committee, or NVAC. Our objectives for today are twofold. First, to elucidate the purpose and structure of the NVAC, and second, to share ways to engage with NVAC on issues related to older adult vaccination. Once you know more about the committee, we hope that you feel comfortable sharing the views and needs of older adults with this group. As you'll hear throughout this presentation, there are several structured ways to engage with the committee and many opportunities to increase the representation of issues unique to older adults. We've already mentioned NVAC several times, so what exactly is it? NVAC is a federal advisory committee created in 1987 by the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act and governed by the Federal Advisory Committee Act. The members of the committee advise the Assistant Secretary for Health, who serves as the director of the National Vaccine Program. Being a federal advisory committee means that notices of their meetings are published in the Federal Register and are typically open to the public. Meetings traditionally happen 3 times a year in February, June, and September in Washington, D.C., with some exception. For example, the committee has been meeting virtually in 2020 and 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Whether in person or virtual, the meetings are broadcast live on the Health and Human Services website. Committee members are supported by HHS staff in the Office of Infectious Disease and HIV/AIDS Policy, often called OIDP. This is a fairly recent change in name to what was known as the National Vaccine Program Office. The National Vaccine Advisory Committee studies and makes recommendations in several areas. First, they recommend ways to encourage the availability of an adequate supply of safe and effective vaccine products in the United States. Second, they recommend research priorities and other measures that the director of the National Vaccine Program should take to enhance safety and efficacy of vaccines. Third, they identify areas for government and non-government cooperation. And finally, NVAC works with the Division of Vaccines and OIDP to achieve the goals of the National Vaccine Plan. NVAC has always brought many government and partner groups to the table to discuss implementation issues related to the plan and coordinate across federal agencies. All of this may sound very specific, but the deliberations and recommendations put forward by NVAC hold importance. For example, NVAC produces a range of outputs, recommendations, guidelines, standards of practice, and thought pieces that can influence policy in practice. NVAC also brings multiple federal agencies and many partners together to address systems challenges. For example, which types of vaccines need investment in development, financing, equity, and safety. NVAC members look across different systems and settings and try to identify and smooth any roadblocks to the production and implementation of vaccines. Now we know what NVAC is, a formal federal advisory committee, what kinds of recommendations they make on safety and supply of vaccines and contributions to the National Vaccine Plan, and how the committee coordinates among federal agencies. Let's talk now about who is on NVAC and making recommendations. Broadly, NVAC is made up of 1 chairperson and 16 members who have overlapping 4-year terms. The chairperson and 14 members have expertise in vaccine research or vaccine manufacture, or who are physicians, members of parent organizations concerned about immunization, and representatives of state or local health agencies or public health organizations. 2 of the members of the committee are specifically dedicated to people with experience in the vaccine manufacturing industry. These individuals do not represent any broader pharma organization or their companies. The positions are for people with pharma experience, and traditionally one position is for someone with small pharma experience and the other is for large pharma experience. This is a unique aspect to NVAC. Few other federal advisory committees include the manufacturer perspective. These 2 members do not vote. Of note, there are no specific member positions dedicated to older adult issues, but that also means that any member position or nomination cycle is an opportunity. There are also non-voting ex officio members from various government agencies. The number of federal agencies are larger than on many federal committees, but that makes sense given the coordinating role that NVAC plays. NVAC also has representatives from non-federal entities, including state and local health agencies or public health organizations that are engaged in and/or have interest in vaccine research, the manufacture of vaccines, and immunizations. The liaison representatives are non-voting members of the Advisory Council. So far, we've discussed what NVAC is, the types of recommendations and coordination overseen, and who is on the committee. Now we will talk about the process for making these recommendations. First, subcommittees or working groups receive a special charge from the Assistant Secretary for Health, or ASH. The ASH also provides a timeline for the group and identifies the membership, which may also include non-member consultants. The committee or working groups are chaired by NVAC members. Federal ex officio members and the Office of Infectious Disease and HIV/AIDS Policy are responsible for staffing the committees and providing assistance to the chairs. This slide shows some recent examples of working groups and outputs to help concretize the type of work that NVAC does. The most recent working groups and subcommittees are based on vaccine confidence, equity, and HPV vaccination. Each of these groups has a specific charge and typically 2-year timeline to examine an issue, speak to stakeholders, review research, and formulate recommendations which are shared in the linked documents. These can all also be found on the NVAC website. With this understanding of NVAC, there are several ways to engage with the committee to bring forward issues related to the immunization of older adults, and we hope that you do. The first suggestion of ways to engage with NVAC is to nominate someone to be on the committee. The OIDP puts out a solicitation for new members based on requirements outlined in the committee's charter, as well as specific expertise needed to address departmental priorities. You can find this information on the NVAC website. We suggest tailoring your letter of nomination to those requirements or special expertise requested. A second way to engage with NVAC is to suggest that a subcommittee be formed on a specific topic where recommendations would be helpful. Perhaps something like improving immunization rates in community-dwelling older adults, or implementing shared clinical decision-making recommendations. Lastly, and perhaps easiest of the ways to engage, consider providing either oral or written public comment during meetings. Individuals can register to make oral comment a few weeks ahead of meetings and are given during a specific time on the meeting agenda. Comments usually focus on something that the NVAC is discussing on that meeting's agenda or something the commenter thinks needs more attention. Written comments can be sent to the email or person designated in the Federal Register announcement about the meeting. They should include a little bit about your organization, who it represents, and why you care about an issue. It's also helpful to clearly state what you are asking of the committee in your comments. Written comments may be shared whenever meetings are announced and typically can be submitted up to the end of the meeting. While the work of NVAC can be quite broad, we hope that today's session gives you a better sense of what NVAC does, who comprises the committee, and how to best engage as an advocate for the health of older adults. Should you want more information or wish to ask any questions, we have provided the links to do so. We thank you for your time today and look forward to working together to improve immunization rates for older adults.